Okay. Ken, you're here now. All right, hang on. I was just waiting. Are you here? Yay,
Hey,
it worked.
what's up, Sally?
Hi,
Good
Ken.
to see you.
How's it going?
It's wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. What's your hat?
Oh, it
I
says
can't.
Mount Hood Meadows, which is the ski resort I go to on the weekends a lot of the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. I approve. I like it. It's a good look.
Tip of
All
the hat
right.
to a lady.
Yeah, let's begin. I was just
Yeah.
noticing I didn't realize it was this bright in here. Maybe I should close my curtains. I look like a ghost.
Sure. You got accused of being a vampire earlier, so maybe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I like this.
Not me.
All right, actually hang on one second. I'm going
Yeah.
to close my curtains because I am pale enough as it is. Although this is a discussion of white
Whiteness.
privilege, that's how white I am. I'm so white privileged. There you go. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Better?
I don't know. I don't know.
You're
Is it better?
you're dark, but I think we're good.
Color is weird. Now I look a weird. It's just it didn't. This is weird.
You're becoming more Trump-like, which I approve.
Oh, gross. Actually, okay. Sorry. Hang on one second here.
Okay.
I'm just gonna open a little bit of it.
You got
A little bit of the curtain.
yes.
Okay.
Weren't that
There.
you look
Done.
now that you're on the big screen, it matters, I guess.
Yeah, I know, right? The little screen, I didn't feel like I even noticed any of that.
Okay.
Okay.
So
All right, good to go.
let's get cracking. So I was thinking, I just wanted to say right off the bat, I really have a positive affinity for you, and I think our conversation is going to go much better than yesterday. And if you haven't watched yesterday's video on Islam with you and Cole, you should check that out. But I think you're actually pretty cool in that you are a liberal, but you
Thanks.
are, yeah, but you are not totally closed to conversation, and you seem somewhat open to having your mind changed by a reasonable argument. And I think that's great, and I think we should promote that, like Dave Rubin and a bunch of other guys try to. And kudos to you. You're quite the cool lady, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I mean that's true. And I appreciated Cole yesterday, and Cole has been, I've been talking to him about these topics and about Islam prior to that as well. And just in general, I do appreciate other people like you as well who are willing to have conversations with somebody that they disagree with. I think we all need to be able to do that. So yes, thank you. And thank you for what you said.
Yeah. So I read this book, the Bobaverse series by, I forget who the guy was, but anyway, in it, there's a space alien race that talks to the protagonist, and it says, they're so evil. They say the scurrying of cornered animals to us is like artwork. That's their equivalent to like culture, is watching cornered animals do that. So that's kind of my attitude towards you in this position. So I'm not going to cut you off very often. I'm going to let you kind of hang yourself, much to the
Ah!
of our audience. So I won't tell you to shut up repeatedly like Cole did. It happens. We're not all great debaters, but anyway. So let's start.
There'll probably be enough people telling me to shut up by typing it. I'm fully expecting, which is fine because I'll be talking to you.
Yeah. So I think just to start, if we want to cut each other off at any point, just like raise your hand in frame. I think that's the best way to not talk over each other. And
okay,
let's just start with like 2 minutes each on why we think each other's wrong about race and white privilege and all whatever you want to bring up, and I won't cut you off.
Okay. Oh, I'm first. I'm sorry.
If you want, if I can go first, if you want.
Okay. Why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, I have to be sort of a mind reader in that I'm arguing against your position. So I will present what I feel you might be thinking, although I hate when people do that, is that you actually associate yourself. You said, I am BLM, I am Black Lives Matter. And so that seems to be a part of your personality, that's important to you. So to argue about what they stand for, which is what I consider to be illegitimate or in some way overblown and has negative consequences in the real world, is this, I mean, their main point of contention seemed to be, they kicked off because there was a bunch of unarmed, innocent Black people shot by police, and that is a large-scale societal problem. So we have to kind of nitpick on each of those points and see if they hold up to scrutiny. So innocent, right? Were these people committing crimes? Were they physically attacking a police officer when they were shot? And then how often does that type of situation happen? Put in context, in a situation where there are X numbers of crimes per year, and whether or not there is a systemic racial bias against certain minorities across the board. And then I'm sure you're probably going to want to argue that laws are systemically racist to target certain groups, and also prosecution, they get a bad rap. Why that, in my view, is not an argument that holds much merit. And also, what was the last thing? Fuck. It was that the innocence, whatever. We'll get back to it. But basically, I've laid out quite a bit that you can respond to. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, the main thing you're wanting to talk about is Black Lives Matter.
Well,
let me ask you that first. Is that the main topic here?
I think that can lead us into some interesting areas if we keep with that as the main focus, because that seems to be your, you marched in the streets with a sign that says "No more killer cops," right? It seems to be important to you.
Right.
And so, we don't need to get bogged down in the history. I can, I'll be the first one to admit that there's a racial history in America that's horribly ugly. I've seen it firsthand. There's a lot of interpersonal racism that I've seen that I think is disgusting, and I try to fight it whenever I can. But the linkage between that historical racism and the problems we see now is what I think is probably the most interesting and most impactful conversation we could be having. So that's probably, we can at least start with the BLM stuff that you seem to carries a lot of weight with you.
Okay. Well, so right now it's my 2 minutes or so just to introduce, right? You just said, well, I was just asking because I was, I didn't prepare. I'm not, I'm going informally with this, but I didn't know, I was surprised. That's why I was just asking. So you were talking about Black Lives Matter, and I'm happy to talk about that, and that's fine. But my main thesis, or what, my main point with all of this is not the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm happy to talk about that. I will talk about that. I'm happy to talk about the problem of police brutality and systemic racism within police departments and within our justice system and all of that. And the fact that Black Lives Matter is it's a bunch of people standing up, speaking up and saying, stop killing unarmed Black people and stop brutalizing Black individuals, innocent Black people, and all of that. And so that's what it is. It's just a bunch of people who are speaking up about that problem. But my main point with all of this is just how where we are today as a society, and I'm speaking specifically about the United States, even though white supremacy, racism against Black people is a problem in other nations, and it's a Western problem specifically, but I'm speaking of the United States, and just that, I wanted to talk a lot about housing discrimination, and I posted something about that today, and bank loans, banking discrimination, and the general problems of that we don't see every day as white people, that we don't think about, and what white privilege means in that context, and why it is that we have the inequality in this nation that we do in the first place, and what leads to all of that, and what we all need to understand about it and do as a nation to change it. So that was, I'm not getting into specifics right now with that because I was hoping we would address that as we speak to one another. But ultimately, I'm hoping in this conversation we will get into all, that I will somehow be able to get into those things. You know what I mean? And that we can address those things together.
Okay. So I'd like to make some points about Black Lives Matter, and then that can lead us into, I hope, a broader of racism. So, there's some notes. Basically, what I'm mostly concerned about with the over-representation of media coverage about a white cop killing a black, innocent, unarmed person is that there's a link made in the minds of a lot of people that a few instances of something like that has societal implications. So there's a larger problem that we need to discuss and we need to get to the bottom of. Colin Kaepernick seemed to indicate that with his protest to not stand for the national anthem at football games. It's not an indictment of just this individual police officers who shot the unarmed black kids. It's the nation, right? It's a racist country. It's basically the point being made. No more killer cops. Your sign seems to indicate that you think it's a large-scale problem, not just an individual case. So let's take 2016 as an example year, as a case study. There were 22 unarmed white people shot and killed by the police that year, and there were 17 unarmed black people shot and killed by the police that year. And I've actually looked into it and looked at each individual case of the black people shot, and there were about 3 that didn't meet my personal criteria, which is per law, per police procedures, of that was basically the cop was being trigger happy or racist or whatever you want to say. Who knows? We weren't there. There weren't necessarily videos of all of these things, but it's at least questionable. So, 3 people in a year, it's just overstating the point. And when you have the media perpetuating a message of black people are systematically killing black people, and there's open season on young black men in this country, you're going to get things like the guy in Dallas who was a Black Lives Matter guy who shot 9 police officers, 2 innocent civilians, and killed a bunch of people. You're going to get Baltimore riots where they burned several hundred buildings. You're going to get the LA riots, which, again, that and I just want to make this one point and then I'll stop. So the LA riots and the Trayvon Martin situation are textbook examples of the media perpetuating a narrative that they wanted to promote by lying, by having zero journalistic integrity. The LA riots was Rodney King leading the police on an 8-mile-long car chase because he didn't want to go back to prison because he was out on parole because he had done an armed robbery. He fled on the highway going 100 miles an hour and through city streets going 80 miles an hour. They tased him twice when they pulled him over and he didn't go down. That's when they pulled the batons out and started hitting him. The people in the car with Rodney King, the 2 guys, were also black, and they went home without a scratch, right? So racism was not the operative factor in that situation. And also, one of the officers on the scene was this Officer Kuhn, no joke, that's really his name, K-O-O-N, rather. In a few months prior, he had given mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to a black transvestite with open sores on their mouth to save their lives. So, these aren't racist people doing that. And then the Trayvon Martin case, which I argued with you yesterday about when you asked me if I watched that documentary, The 13th. One of the things that drives me fucking mental about the media coverage of the Trayvon Martin case is twofold. One, George Zimmerman, when he made that police call, it went like this. He's made the call, like, there's a suspicious guy, blah, blah, blah. The guy on the other end of the phone, the police respondent, said, okay, what's the race of this person? Are they white, black, Hispanic? And George Zimmerman said he's black, or I think he's black, right? The media edited that tape down to have George Zimmerman out of nowhere say, there's a shady looking guy around the neighborhood, he's black, or I think he's black. So that paints him as a racist. And they also reported George Zimmerman as being white. And as the final capper on the Trayvon Martin case, here's something you probably don't know. The prosecution, trying to put George Zimmerman away, actually tried to cover up the fact that Trayvon Martin had been pulled in by police for having a backpack full of stolen women's jewelry and a screwdriver. He was let go by the people in charge because they had this. This is the key point, right? They had the low expectations about him as a race, and they let him go without suspending him. He'd been suspended 2 times previously. If he had been suspended, if he had been...
Wait a minute.
Hold on.
Okay,
let me finish.
I'm supposed to raise my hand.
Real quick, I'm 20 seconds.
What?
I'll tell you.
Well, I just don't
know
what that has to... Okay,
so,
sorry.
If he had been suspended, if he'd been sent to juvenile hall, he wouldn't have been killed that night because he wouldn't have been in that neighborhood. So the racism of low expectations hurt him. It got him killed.
What does that have to do with him getting shot and killed by George Zimmerman?
Well, I mean, we have to look at the George Zimmerman case, so, right? He's a neighborhood watch guy calling the police saying there's a shady-looking guy.
Neighborhood watch is in quotes, I hope, but go ahead. Yes,
Well,
yes.
I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah. It's not a fact, but okay.
Well, okay.
Go ahead.
Concerns.
He called himself a neighborhood watch guy, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, a concerned citizen sees a guy aimlessly wandering around in the rain in a neighborhood, looking like he's, high, facing the place, right? And is that objectionable to you, calling the police on someone who's loitering in your neighborhood?
I think it is really, really silly to dismiss the fact that a lot of people in a gated, predominantly white neighborhood community see a black boy in a hoodie and think certain things and are more inclined to be
except that he had been busted
and call the cops and think it's a criminal.
Well, except, Sally, that he was busted recently with a screwdriver in his backpack and a bunch of stolen jewelry.
How is that relevant at all in any way, shape, or form? But that's the thing. It's not.
To steal.
He what?
Because it points to the fact that he was probably casing the neighborhood to steal.
George Zimmerman had never said that he had ever seen that kid before.
Yeah, no,
Trayvon.
What he said to the police officer was, "These guys always get away." So he probably hadn't seen him before, but it looks suspicious.
Okay, so hang on a minute. I'm still confused as to why you're bringing up whatever that case is that you just mentioned about Trayvon Martin, who is dead.
Yes.
Okay, so you're impugning the victim of the gunshot who's dead and who can't speak to anything that you say about him, but you're somehow impugning his character and you're implying it's relevant in that particular case of this particular man who saw him, a black kid in a hoodie, walking around the neighborhood. There's no report that he was doing anything inappropriate or bad. He was hanging out in the rain. He was walking around. I don't even remember the details. I'm sorry I didn't research all the details, but I don't even think it's relevant at this point. So he's there. My point is nothing that you're saying about his past is relevant. I don't even understand why you're bringing it up.
Someone is incarcerated.
Make us question this kid for no reason, though, because it's not relevant.
Sally, I'll tell you exactly what's relevant. If the kid is incarcerated, right, in juvenile hall because he was under 18, the night that he would have gotten killed because he had stolen stuff.
But we have to talk about that night.
Stuff that night, then if they had not let him off the hook, then he wouldn't have been killed, right? That would have been the system working.
Oh, okay. This is kind of like a total waste of time, derailment in this particular moment, because as we speak of this instance of this man who shot and killed a black boy in a hoodie who had absolutely no weapons, who George Zimmerman was told by the 911 dispatcher, hey, don't go after him.
Yeah.
Let us do our jobs, right? Like he said something along those lines of, don't follow him.
Sure.
And this reckless man who had a complex as the the hero of the neighborhood who's going to save everyone from a black boy in a hoodie with no weapons and an iced tea and a Skittles, which, yeah, I mean, that's what he had.
Well, let me explain.
Nothing saying about his past is relevant to this moment when he was shot and killed. Why would it be relevant? Why would we smear a dead young boy, paint him as a criminal, when whether he was or wasn't, understand the bigger picture that in that moment, in that neighborhood, George Zimmerman didn't know anything about whether he had or hadn't, whatever you were just describing about Trayvon,
sure,
whether he had or hadn't been arrested for anything. None of it is relevant in that moment. And what is incredibly relevant is our system not doing its job.
I agree.
So okay, thank you. So the only reason George Zimmerman got a...
They didn't do its job by not prosecuting him for stealing.
Oh, no.
That's my point.
Okay, not relevant.
It is
they
relevant.
Didn't do their...
He died if they had done that. He broke the law, right?
We're talking about the actual... Okay,
yeah.
So, but Ken, stick with me here, because if you're going to bring up George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin,
yes,
let's talk about that night,
yes,
of George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin. What did those two individuals do? What did those two individuals see? What did those two individuals know?
Right.
George Zimmerman had no knowledge of any past of Trayvon. There was nothing more in his mind about that kid, because he didn't know that kid.
Yeah.
All he knew is what he saw with his eyes and the thoughts that were in his head, right? He didn't, so none of it's relevant at all.
I'll tell you what is relevant. If the 9/11 call had him say, this kid's walking around aimlessly like he's high, and he has his hand in his waistband, right? So that is cause to get police involved if the neighborhood had recently been burglarized, which it had, right? Are you?
So we're not
call the police on people walking around your neighborhood you've never seen.
Okay, I mean, fine, but we're not having a conversation about people calling the police on black kids.
And you're right, the police,
which is, they absolutely do way more than they do to white kids, but that's not even what we're talking about. We're having a conversation about a dead black kid, right? So a person taking it upon themselves to go shoot and kill a black kid with zero weapons on him, doing nothing. Who approached whom? What? Can you tell me who approached whom in that situation?
Well, the jury in the trial.
No. Like no. I'm asking you who approached whom?
Well, I mean,
who went up to the person?
I don't know the real nitty gritty facts of the matter, but
it's George Zimmerman, and that's a fact that he actually went up to him. Okay, so but the thing is, so what I'm talking about with the system, which this is the important part here, that I think needs to be understood. The system did not do its job. The reason we had protests and outrage and media coverage is because George Zimmerman did not even get arrested for a long time. I don't know off the top of my head the number of days. We can easily Google it. Somebody can do that right now if they want. But it was not immediate, and it was several days. Like, he wasn't even gonna be arrested. They were gonna be like, okay, yeah, we're not even gonna try you. We don't even need to bother. You're okay. We take your word for it that this black kid was the bad guy. Well, we take your word for it. And hold on, you know what else? Trayvon, the dead kid, he was tested for drugs in his system. You know who wasn't tested? The guy that shot and killed Trayvon. George Zimmerman was not tested. His body was not tested for drugs. You don't see any issue there, or any type of, like, what do you think if the roles had been reversed, and if a black man had been the one shooting the gun and killing somebody?
You're not going into one critical aspect, which is George Zimmerman had a broken nose and a bunch of blood on the back of his head and a gash, right? So it looked as if there was a struggle that he had barely escaped from, right?
Okay.
By shooting.
So he must be innocent.
Well,
so we need to take that as word. we need to give him the benefit of the doubt that scary black boy was the aggressor. We should assume it. We should not test George Zimmerman for any substance. We should not arrest him and go ahead and let the system do its job to give him, his trial. Let's just not arrest him, which they weren't even going to arrest him, at all at first.
It'd be really stupid if you called the police, they told you not to go after the guy, and then you assaulted the kid, right? So there would be.
I'm sorry, say that again. It would be stupid.
If the police tell you not to follow the kid or approach him, right? And then you do that and then start initiating violence against this person, that's really stupid, right? It's not plausible. If you tell the cops what happened and the kid came up to you and started beating you, and then you desperately shot him because you thought he was going to kill you, right? That's a lot more reasonable than the story that you're painting, which is he went up to the kid, started initiating violence, and then killed him.
That's actually a fact that George Zimmerman approached Trayvon Martin.
I
don't
know. Maybe.
Yeah, so that needs to be, you need to do more research on those details, because
Google it,
actually, yeah, it's never been even thought that Trayvon went up to him, that Trayvon was approached by this guy who wanted to be the hero to save the neighborhood from those dangerous black boys with Skittles and iced tea. They're so scary in their hoodies. Let me go save everybody. And that's what happens when you, by the way, side note, this will be more of a gun debate thing, but that's what happens when you are armed and when you've got your gun and you're ready to go. You feel like a super tough guy and you're ready to go start some shit. And then you end up killing people. And with stand your ground laws, which have been shown to be racist in their application, then you are more likely to be able to use a stand your ground law to be let off if you're white or mixed race, or as George Zimmerman, I know everybody, oh my God, he's not white. I mean, he's perceived as a darker skinned white man by society. He is not perceived as a black man by any means, whereas Trayvon was. And anybody if the roles were reversed, the situation would not have been the same. And it is not really okay to smear the dead persons. And this is what happens with police officers. People love to search for reasons to paint the victim as a dangerous, scary criminal, a menace to society. They do this more with black people, time and time again. And
I'm not going to assert that without giving me evidence, but we'll go with that.
I mean, it's time. It happens every time. And the thing is, though, this is what I'm asking, is the benefit of the doubt. This is what white privilege is that people don't understand. Who is given the benefit of the doubt?
Cops.
It wasn't Trayvon Martin. It's not this dead person, the dead kid. It's always the benefit of the doubt is given to the white person, the non-black person, we could say, or the police officer, who sometimes might be black, but they're still part of
all the hoaxes where black people accuse white people of abusing them, like the Duke Lacrosse case, like whatever, all the graffiti. There's plenty of stories of people spray painting the N-word on black public housing that turns out it wasn't actually white people doing it, all that jazz. So no, not every time is the white person assumed to be innocent.
Okay, I mean, that's neither here nor there, because what you're talking about doesn't represent a system backing up, one race, one group of people, and causing harm to another. So I'm not talking about individual anecdotes. I'm talking about a system.
Well, you are.
But anyway, we talked about George Zimmerman. But I feel like we kind of need to get back into, like, if you wanted to talk more about Black Lives Matter in general or more about police brutality in general, we have not really done that. Sure. Would you like to do that?
Okay. So, yeah. So as a couple of points, right, the Rodney King beating was, in my view, a race baiting of the media, which led to the deaths of 63 people, you know, billions of dollars damage, 5 days of rioting, the National Guard getting pulled in. So, I mean, you're taking one instance in this case of the media taking the narrative that they want to play and then repeating it ad nauseum. The beating was, you know, pretty awful, but you're dealing with a guy who had thrown off 4 police officers and taken 2 tasers. What the fuck else are you supposed to do with someone going down and getting cuffed?
Okay,
right?
wait, can I?
Yep.
What the fuck else are you supposed to do? You really want to say that right now?
Yeah.
About Rodney King?
Yes.
What the? Okay. Because I can think of a lot of other things you're supposed to do. Do you want me to tell you?
Floor is yours.
Well, it's just so silly. I know you're smarter than, I can't believe that you would say that and stand by that. There's no way. It doesn't make sense to me. Have you seen the video of Rodney King getting ass beat?
Of course. I grew up near LA.
By all of
and
these
like,
numerous cops.
Yeah.
What?
I'm sorry?
Okay. I'm really not trying to talk to you like you're stupid. And I know people get mad at me. They think I'm better than other people, not you personally. And they think I talk down to you. And that's not my intention. I don't think I'm better than you. But when you, okay, good. Thank you. But when you make a statement that is so, not only is there's an implied racial bias against Black people, in this case Rodney King, but there's so much authoritarianism. It's like, it's concerning. And so this is the thing, when you say, well, what the fuck else were they supposed to do? I mean, they had no choice. But how many cops was it? 4, 5?
5, yeah.
5 police officers. And how long did that beating go on? I remember seeing it, and they're like,
yeah, he got hit by like 50 or 60
blows. They're punching and they're kicking and they're beating the shit
out
of like
they
4 or 5.
They told the guy they'd stop when he stopped moving, and he didn't stop moving.
That's not how it works.
Yes, it is.
That's not what police officers are not trained to do that.
Yes, they are.
Might get away with it, which is part of why we protest, but that's not what their job is. Yes, no, dude, they need to restrain someone, get their shit together, and do your job, and figure out a way to restrain.
Sally, 4 guys jumped on his back.
No, because while he's on the ground, while he's on the ground and they're beating the shit out of him, at any point, instead of beating the shit out of him, they could have arrested him. They could have cuffed him, right? Isn't that what they're trying to do? Is to cuff somebody, not to hurt them.
You can't put him in cuffs.
What?
If he doesn't stop moving and doesn't give you his arms behind his back, you cannot cuff him. That is the point.
So you beat the shit out of him?
Yes. If you try tasering him twice and it doesn't work, you are left with no other option than to beat him with batons. That's why you have batons.
So tell me, so the purpose in beating the shit out of him by 4 or... No, I'm serious. I'm sorry. To me, call me crazy, but that strikes me as inhumane, cruel and inhumane.
Well, okay.
So,
and the police procedure was cruel
and excessive. The word is excessive.
Okay, but the procedure was nationwide at the time, and the cops were following to the letter of the law what they should have been doing in that situation.
So okay, let's get down to the specifics. The letter of the law.
Or the letter of police procedure, whatever. In fact...
Well, no, you said it, so you have to know what you're saying. You can't just say that and defend it without having the specifics.
Yes, police procedure, they follow to the letter of the law. I will say that unabashedly. Police
procedure. You're saying that that is their procedure.
For white people, black people,
for
Latinos, and Asians, it's across the board. That's what you're supposed to do in that situation.
Okay. Across the board, it's okay for 4 or 5, however many it was, grown-ass cops, you know, to.
Are you gonna cry?
Carry on beating that.
You I don't know.
That's shocking to me that you would say that. But well, okay.
You look like you are. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you. I'm sorry.
No. So, and I'm not. Even if it were a white man, I'd be shocked that you would say that. I'm not trying to imply that the reason you're siding with the cops is racism. I'm not trying to imply that about you. I just think it's fucked up that you would say that it would be okay for them to do that to anyone. It is, you don't carry on using excessive force. At some point, they're supposed to, their procedure is to use the least amount of force as necessary.
Yeah.
The least.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't it say that?
Yeah, and if he keeps moving and doesn't give you his arms behind his back, you have to keep hitting him.
Well, then no.
Yes, that's procedure.
You don't.
Yes.
That's not procedure.
Yes, it is.
I want it. Okay. Somebody needs to show. Okay. So, but here's the thing. So somebody needs to show me where in the police manual for procedures that it says you continue to beat a person because they don't, while they're on the ground and you have 4 people on them, go ahead and beat them because they didn't give you your arm. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe,
Sally, if someone gives you that evidence after this video, will you concede that you were wrong on this?
Evidence that says that cops,
police procedure
that literally says that cops. I mean, sure. If it says that, then holy crap, the system. But here's the thing. Can I tell you something though?
Across the board.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'll give you something right here. Okay, if somebody shows me like for real evidence that says police procedure says to do this, to beat the shit out of a human being, and I'm wrong, okay, then I'll say that I'm wrong. But here's the thing that I want you to understand. Even if I'm wrong about that they were, because they got away with it, right? Yeah. So they went to trial. So I think if you were right, it wouldn't have made, because why would they get arrested though at all if you were right? That doesn't make sense. Because
the news media released the tape showing only the beating, not showing the lead up to them tasing him several times and him lunging at the cops and throwing 4 of them off of him.
But what
it appeared really racist and fucked up.
Okay, so they got arrested for in that.
Yes.
They wouldn't have gotten arrested if what they had done in the video wasn't somehow illegal, or at least and against police procedures. They all got fired, didn't they? Didn't they get fired from their job?
From around. I mean, that's the problem with all these cases, is that cops get fired just as a precautionary measure because police don't.
No, they don't. They usually get a leave of absence. They get a paid vacation, and then they return to work.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about. That happens all the time.
Well,
they get a paid vacation.
I'm telling you, I've looked at the statistics on this. It's not most.
Okay, it's not most. It's a lot. It's a lot. But listen, back up a second, and we can move on past this, because I will give you something right here. So let's say you're right, and that it was just the media, that evil liberal media, which is owned by massive corporations, but it's liberal, yeah. Okay, but let's say that.
Let me stop. Are you going to tell me that news anchors and journalists do not have a bias towards liberalism?
That's an entire
one way, motherfucker.
Okay, but actually, Ken, guess what? You have bias. I have bias. Every human being has bias, which is kind of
you have across the board.
My entire point.
In one industry, news media, you have voting across the board, one direction. And you're talking about a bias?
Yeah, the more educated you are, guess which way you tend to vote. I mean, yeah. For college educated people, they've learned some things.
I have a math.
But anyway, let's go ahead and move on. I mean, I'm sorry. Again, not trying to be condescending, but that's true. The more education you get, you tend to vote a certain way. But anyway, listen, so so what you said about Rodney King and the police officers, if in fact it was totally legal, actually what they did, beating the shit out of a man with 4 or 5 officers doing so, kicking and punching for an extended period of time, even if it was procedure and it was legal, I want you to understand that therein lies the problem. It's still not okay. This is why people riot. This is a systemic problem. You're actually outlining it for me. The fact that they can do that and systemically it is acceptable, this is why people are angry. So you talk about Rodney King and you want to blame the rioters. We just had Martin Luther King Day.
3 people, right? As a result.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
One guy gets beaten. Let's say it's questionably ethical, the beating that he took, right? 63 people died as a result. Thousands were injured. I think it was 12,000 people got arrested as a result.
63 people. How did 63 people die as a result?
Riots are fucked up, especially race riots. A lot of Koreans.
I was young when that happened. But I'm asking, how did 63 people die? I mean, what were those shootings? Were those fires? How do you directly correlate them?
Because it happened when there was no law and order in the city. Black people pulled like a truck driver out of his car and beat the shit out of him and like fired a shotgun at his gas tank. These are directly correlated to the riot.
No, I mean, I'm not accusing you of being wrong. You might be. I'm not educated about the details of what happened in the riot.
Okay.
So I honestly
on faith
don't know.
63 people died as a result.
Okay. I mean, so that's fine. I don't know for a fact what the numbers are. So I mean, I'll take you at your word. For the sake of this conversation, I'll have to verify that later.
Wow.
So because I don't know, so I'm not accusing you of being, I just understand that. I'm not accusing you of being wrong. Like, I didn't study the number of people that died and how they died and all of those details. But it's actually in the context of the conversation of police brutality and systemic racism.
Are you going to say it's an understandable reaction to start killing people?
It completely No. I'm not saying that. I'm not excusing anybody murdering anybody, and anybody that has ever listened to me knows, like I've already told you, I hate violence. I hate guns. I'm against them. I am a pacifist as much as I can be. I aim to always, for everybody, I try to live out Dr. Martin Luther King, nonviolence. So he support
Black Lives Matter is committed to nonviolence.
No. So listen. So hang on. So what I was gonna say, I started to say, so it was Dr. Martin Luther King Day, the other day, a couple of days ago, and so I want to remind anybody watching of a very important quote of his about riots. So he obviously preached nonviolence. And that was huge for him. But at the same time, he also understood the reasons why other Black people at the time, other victims of injustice and oppression, why others might choose violence. Mm-hmm. He did not excuse it, but he understood it. And he has a quote where he says riots are the voice of the unheard.
Mm-hmm.
And he says more about that, and I don't have the entire thing memorized, unfortunately. I wish I did, but it is inspiring. And because, and I remember I quoted
that's fucked up.
What?
I wouldn't say that quote's particularly inspiring. That's fucked up.
Why do you think that's fucked up?
Because people die in riots.
Okay. Right. So he's helped. So when you understand that quote, you understand how to prevent the riots in the first place. That's the point.
Okay.
It's not saying it's not saying that the riots are good. It is not saying that the people who are either hurting people in the riots, damaging property, it's not saying that that stuff is good or okay or that anybody should do it. And again, anyone that knows Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words and his work knows he was always preaching nonviolence
So Sally,
and preaching about love.
In as a corollary to what you're saying about racism, or the voice of the voiceless needing to be expressed through riots sometimes. I understand that. I disagree.
Okay.
Because in recent history, we've seen the recent flooding and storms in Texas and Florida, right? You have a bunch of black people like going to the Reebok store trying to get shoes, right? Like there's shitloads of looting. So it's not always.
What does that have to do with anything?
Exactly.
What does that have to do with
What does it have to do with police brutality or racism?
What? No, what do the Reeboks have to do with anything?
Well, the one video I saw was actually of a Reebok store getting fucked up.
What? No, but why are you talking about that right now?
Well,
what does that have to do with?
Riots and looting are not always a systemic problem. That's case in point. That's the only.
No. No. Right now, we're talking about riots in response to systemic racism, racial injustice, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, so that's what I'm saying. Why I bring up the Reeboks. To me, that has absolutely nothing to do with anything we're talking about.
It's almost here can be seen not just in response to racism. It can be seen in other contexts.
But what does that have to do with anything? It has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Take it on or not. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
Okay, but I become concerned when I hear people bring up times that black people have done criminal activity, and we don't do that to white people. And I find it fascinating that we're searching for a reason to talk about what criminals black people are and how violent and dangerous black people are, and we don't do that to white people, and white people have done some horrible shit. We don't talk about white on white crime. You know what I mean? Like white people do horrible shit all the time. But why are you talking to me about a black person stealing Reeboks? And again, I'm not calling you racist. I'm like trying to figure this out because people are doing what you just did all the time.
So here's the point that gets made, right? Or the point I'm making is that you see looting and rioting in more in one than another. So more looting and rioting in blacks. Your argument is that is because of systemic racism. I'm saying there are contexts when that is obviously not the factor that is at play there. They just want to loot and riot.
Okay.
So a storm is not racist.
So those people just want to loot. Okay. I see no reason to even bring that up though, because it's not relevant to our conversation right now.
Okay, so
and I would
we can move on. It's fine.
I just want to say, like, if you're going to bring that up, it's not I'm not excusing anything. It's never okay to steal or to hurt people or do anything like that, any criminal activity. But don't just bring it up.
You're saying I should be concerned about what causes the riots in the first place. And I'm saying, yes, but if you unpack
what causes all the... No. So I was going to say too, with the Reeboks thing, which to me is nonsense, it doesn't matter. But since it has been brought up, I was just going to say, if you are going to bring those types of things up, like just, you know, and you're mentioning like a natural disaster, and people understand, people who are in desperate situations and who are in poverty. Like, it's not, we don't have, it's not the people in the nice ass neighborhoods that are doing these things that you're talking about.
Poor white people as well, right? There's a difference.
What?
There's poor white people as well, right?
Absolutely, there are poor white people. Okay,
so
and those poor white people.
Let me break it down this way, right?
Go ahead.
In all major criminal activities that we care about, Black people exceed white people.
Okay.
Okay.
So here,
the per relative size, they exceed the numbers of white crimes. So take it away. Why is that racist to bring up? Why is that perpetuating a racial stereotype when I say that?
Okay. So how did we get to where we are with the segregation of communities that we have?
I'll tell you exactly.
So understand that the communities where people live makes a huge impact on their lives as they grow up, right? Okay, so go ahead.
Well, I would argue that single motherhood in a family is the single largest contributor to lack of success, criminality, school dropout, poverty, etc. So before 1960s, there were not as many welfare programs. The great what was it? It was Lyndon Johnson had the Great Society, I think it was, where he offered, I think, 5 new welfare programs. And one of them had a perverse incentive of paying unmarried mothers more money per child. So then the divorce rate in the Black community spiked. It was always a little lower than white people, but it wasn't by much. And now we see the rate of unwed motherhood in the Black community is something much, much higher than white people. And it's a super majority. It's like 70.
Okay.
80. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna take a position on whether I agree or disagree with what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna just ask you a question. What social policy do you think would help end what you're talking about, single motherhood? And so I ask you to consider what leads to single motherhood. So to me, that question is asking what causes unintended pregnancies. Those are unintended pregnancies, right? What causes that? What leads to that? How can we have a solution that would prevent that?
Okay, so it's not so much a social policy that I recommend because I'm more of a libertarian than a lot of people. So I think it has to be done on a social level where you shame people and you hold them to a higher standard than just having a bunch of kids out of wedlock. And it has to be done.
Okay, so I would like to ask you a question. So I have a master's degree in counseling.
Okay.
I have worked as a school counselor for many years with many types of kids, majority in predominantly African American schools or African American population, but
not currently, though,
as
right?
a mental what?
Not currently though, right?
What? No, not currently. No.
Black, yeah. Anyway, go on.
No, I'm not currently working as a counselor. I am not. I am in between positions, and I'm going to be doing more of my sex ed work.
I was making fun of you for not currently working in a predominantly Black school. That's what I was making a joke. It's whatever. Move on.
Right. No, I'm not. But I mean, as a counselor, as someone with a background in counseling, master's degree in counseling, who has been taught by PhD counselors, has worked closely with them, is very well versed in the field of mental health and different counseling theories that lead to change in behavior. and the research and the evidence, none of it would side with you about shaming people. So in fact, the opposite is true. When you shame people, it leads to more mental illness, to more societal problems, as far as more of a chance that that person will end up causing harm in other ways to themselves, to others, more likely to commit suicide, more likely to become addicted to drugs, more likely to commit crime, to do violence.
Okay.
When you shame people, that is the outcome. When they are filled with shame, when they live with shame about anything, it has devastating consequences.
Okay, so
So I would ask you if you have read the research from psychologists, and if you have spoken to the psychological, psychiatric, counseling, social work community about your theory of shaming people.
well, you didn't present any actual evidence, but so shame is probably.
That's okay. I don't have. You can look it up. I guarantee it. I don't have the
word
studies
shame
or
is
memorize the names of them off the top of my head.
The word shame is clearly triggering something in you. So I'm going to put it a different way. Holding people to account.
I'm not triggered.
You there? I'm sorry. You're breaking up a little bit.
No, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you.
Ah, you're breaking up. One more time. Try it. Sorry, saying something you said.
I'm here. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yeah, I got you. Okay. So personal.
Okay, I didn't hear the last thing you said.
Okay, so don't call it shame then. Call it personal responsibility, right? You can't have more kids than you can financially support. You shouldn't fuck guys that are going to very likely leave you for a variety of reasons, right? You should have some accountability as a woman. Yeah.
Okay. But I actually appreciated when you said shame because you were honest. So what you are describing is still shaming people. So this is the thing is, when you're saying you shouldn't do these things that you've done, and that essentially what you're saying is, I'm fine with personal responsibility, but that's not what you're talking about. You're talking about basically wagging the finger, blaming, shaming, lecturing.
No.
But I'm asking, so you don't want a social policy. You want no policy in any way, shape, or form that would prevent unintended pregnancies.
Well, no, Sally,
and help
let's be clear.
Get people out of poverty.
There are messages in the media we consume every day, right? The message for the last, 40 years has been racism is bad, right? So that's a message we've all absorbed just by osmosis in the culture. There needs to be a message like that, holding people to account, not like Ross and Rachel from fucking Friends, that show, where they made it seem okay to have an out-of-wedlock baby. It's fucking not okay. It hurts people. It really hurts society.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
It's perfectly okay. You don't get to, you sound like a Christian fundamentalist right now, or an Islamic fundamentalist. They probably agree with you.
If we present evidence after the fact that shows data showing a strong correlation between.
Well, hold on a second. Oh, okay. Well, because I can show you evidence that all over Europe, especially like Scandinavia, people aren't really getting married anymore, and they're having kids out of wedlock.
Okay.
And they're quite successful.
Okay, we're not living in Scandinavia. We're in the United States, and in this country, there is a strong.
But if you're talking about marriage, you're talking about out of wedlock kids.
No, I didn't say marriage. I said
hold on a
single
second.
Parent household.
That's fine, because I don't disagree with that. But what I disagree with, and so I don't disagree with your research. I mean, I'm sure that's fine.
Very clear research.
No. But you're misunderstanding. The research itself doesn't talk about what would help that to happen more often. But it's also missing, it's missing the point that when you grow up with educational opportunities and you are more educated, the more educated you are, the more likely you are to delay pregnancy and to have children in wedlock.
So you're saying a furtherance of education, meaning higher education, or are you saying better schools?
All of it.
Less. Okay.
Both.
I doubt that you actually know that, and you're just making this up. But okay.
No, I'm not making that up.
I mean, it seems pretty off the cuff.
Okay, so Ken, you don't think that the better quality education a person has throughout their life, the more likely they are to delay having children?
There's definitely going to be a correlation. There's
have children. What?
There's definitely going to be a correlation between those two sets of data. There's not going to be a causation, I would argue.
Gotcha.
School is not the relevant factor.
I think it's definitely the relevant factor, but
okay.
But so you're telling me right now that the way we solve society's problems
I would start by culturally having a lot of media attention given to the showing the data that you agree to, that there is a correlation between children born in a single parent household and the worst deprivations that humanity has. Poverty, sexual abuse, physical abuse, school dropout.
No, back up. It's the other way around.
How so?
Talk about correlation and causation. You're telling me poverty is caused by single mothers? You don't think it's the other way around?
Hold on. You're telling me a child raised with two incomes is going to be less likely to be impoverished than a child with a single parent? What sense does that make?
Which happened first, Ken?
Well, we can get into the chicken and the egg or whatever, but like I'm telling you, the single.
We need to get into it. No, because
households.
No. What you're saying does not make sense.
How?
You are saying we must judge and shame, or not say the word shame, whatever you want to say, women who have children with no father in the picture. Okay.
Or a mother. I don't care if it's two lesbians. I don't care. But two parents.
Right, sure. You want to, right. You're not trying to be anti-LGBT. I hear that. I appreciate that. But you're just simply saying you would rather have two adults raising kids and not one.
Well, I mean,
and
Sally,
I agree.
You married a man. You understand the positive benefits of having someone to watch the kid while you run out for milk. You understand having two incomes. You understand the benefits. You have to.
Okay, but we have to understand more than that. That's yes, of course.
That's all I'm saying.
But that in and of itself. Okay, but Ken, what causes in higher numbers there to be
the subsidization by the government of people having unwedlock babies?
No, that's where you have
it only started in the 60s when those programs
you're making a wild assumption.
Sally, look, after slavery, during Jim Crow, the divorce rate and unwed motherhood child rate between of black people and white people were much closer, and blacks had a much, there were way more married black families than there are in the years after that. What do you think changed, if not the government welfare programs that subsidize out of wedlock babies? Tell me. I'm open to hearing.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So, the war on drugs. What year did that begin? What year did they start cracking down on when marijuana? Because you know what? Because it was just in the movie that I asked you to watch, 13th. Do you remember?
I don't. Go ahead.
Okay. You didn't really watch it, did you?
No, I did. I watched that and the Oprah interview. I promise.
So So,
Hand to God.
hand to God. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Scouts honor.
There's nothing up. But okay. So Nixon.
Yeah.
It was the Nixon administration. And his his chief of staff, I believe it was, or a big aide of his, was quoted as explicitly describing that their goal with
Southern strategy. Yeah. I watched that part.
Yeah, that was their entire goal with criminalizing marijuana.
Sure.
Was going after not only Black people, but those those hippies, the liberal hippies.
Sure.
Yeah, those were Nixon's enemies.
Well,
Okay,
Sally.
So
to be fair, marijuana had always been illegal since way before.
Right, but they didn't enforce that. They didn't enforce those laws. They didn't really care. And then they started caring. Oh,
it was more systematization of enforcing the laws, but it had always been a crime, or at least 40 years before that.
But this is important to understand, though, Ken, because
and marijuana is not, white, as you pointed out, white people smoke marijuana as well. So it's not like
absolutely, but we're not arrested for it.
Yes, we are.
Don't go to jail for
growing up was arrested for marijuana smoking in public.
Okay. You know a guy. Talk to Black people. They know probably 30 or 40 guys.
You're telling me.
This is the thing.
If you go to court for smoking a joint in public, they're going to prosecute you if you take it to a judge? No, it's your third strike, and that's what locks you away because you've done other shit. That's why people are in jail for smoking.
Well, or for selling it. They give you higher penalties.
We can talk about historical drugs, and we can talk about.
But understand that this is all that so this started it under Nixon. No, but then we can move up.
Yeah.
To Reagan. And again, they talked about this in 13th. And
crack versus cocaine.
And then crack cocaine.
So can I ask you a question?
Right. So yeah.
Would you be at a party with someone snorting cocaine? If it was at a friend's house and somebody just had a line and did it in front of you?
If someone snorted cocaine in front of me, would I be at a party with them?
Would you tell them to leave? What would you do?
No, I would say this is weird because I'm 36 years old and this never really happens.
Okay, so if someone started smoking crack at the same party, what would you do?
Nothing.
You wouldn't leave or tell them to leave?
No.
Really?
If someone was smoking
crack.
Oh, crack! I thought you said a joint.
No, smoking crack.
No. I would think this is very weird.
But you
again, this never happens.
Leave yourself.
I think it depends on the party. Like, I don't know if
you are full of shit. No, you would fucking leave if somebody started smoking crack. There is a world of difference between the actions of a crack user and a person who's high on cocaine, and you fucking know it.
I don't know. I would be so shocked because it would be so bizarre because that's never happened to me.
Well, as someone who has done cocaine,
it's a weird question, Ken. I don't know.
I'm fine with it. Sally, let me say, I've done cocaine. I've been around cocaine. I would run if somebody started smoking crack around me.
Why would you run?
Because I don't want to be beaten the fuck by police when they find the guy smoking crack.
Oh well, yeah. Like as far as not getting arrested.
Yes.
If you're around crack.
Because crack has some crazy fucking shit.
Okay, I don't know. But here's my point though about that.
Yeah.
I'm not denying that. I don't support crack. Kids,
but
don't do crack. Crack is
that criminalizing crack more than cocaine is racist.
No, don't criminalize any of them.
No, but
let's actually treat people's drug problems. Okay? It's called drug rehabilitation centers. It's called understanding people are human beings and we don't need to treat them as though they are violent criminals and that they hurt people when they don't. They're doing that to their own bodies.
Crackheads
So
don't hurt people?
that's why, what?
Crackheads don't hurt people?
If they hurt people, then let's arrest them for hurting people.
Yeah.
Not the crack. I think you're making an assumption.
How often do you think cops bust into crack dens?
I think that what you're saying right now is a wild derailment and distraction from the point, which is that, and if you're a libertarian, this isn't a good look for a libertarian to be on the side of locking people up for the drugs that they choose to put in their own bodies.
I understand, and that's fine in this fantasy world of ethics and ethical systems, but in the real world, I'm agnostic as to the idea that you can like somehow make it not criminalized to do heroin, meth, or PCP or crack. Like that's you would have to reorganize society a lot in order to make that anyway.
I know. Let's do that. Here's the
Why
thing.
do you want people smoking crack? I don't.
No, but Ken, this is what you don't seem to understand. It's the same. Okay, so let's talk about sex education, because that's my whole thing with single moms. And it's because it's the same idea. Because as a sex educator, do you know what I hear all the time? Is, oh, well, you're going to make kids, you're going to tell them to go out there and have sex. You know, now they're going to have more sex. It's like the same thing as what you were just saying. Like, oh, if we make drugs legal, people are going to do them more. No, like, you don't want to do crack. I don't want to do crack. If crack were legal, would you go do crack?
Well, I mean, marijuana has been shown to be ingested more since the decriminalization. But
yeah, it's marijuana. I'm asking you, would you go do crack if it were illegal?
No. And I get
okay, neither would I.
Valid point.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So, but anyway, regarding sex education, when you tell me that you don't like all of these single mothers, I would say the same thing to you as I would say to people who tell me they don't like abortion. That's your opinion about morality. However, I would say, let's work together to prevent unintended pregnancies as much as possible.
Yeah.
And you're a numbers guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you like the data, right? Well, the overwhelming data, the evidence is in. The data shows every single time that comprehensive, holistic, you could call it, sex education that emphasizes the medical facts of condoms, birth control, consent, individual bodily autonomy, communicating boundaries. And we've just heard this Aziz Ansari news thing, by the way. I just want to say, comprehensive sex ed would minimize those situations because it emphasizes communication about your
Jesus
boundaries.
Christ, Sally, this woman is giving nonverbal cues. And you expect a guy to pick up on that? Fuck that. You kidding me? Get out of here.
Huh? What are you upset about?
She never said anything about no or whatever, and she kept blowing him after she.
Oh, no.
Come on.
Okay, you're misunderstanding me. I don't think he's a bad guy here. No, you're misunderstanding me. I'm not saying that I'm talking about the girl that said the story.
Yeah.
I am saying she's upset. I think we're on the same side.
Okay.
Ken?
I get you.
I think you need to hear me.
No, I think you're right.
Okay, I'm not saying I don't think it's not sexual assault. He did not do that. No, but what we have in that situation is like a murky situation that the woman left crying and feeling uncomfortable and feeling violated. He didn't actually break the law, but my point is that the reason she did is because she had not been empowered to speak up for what her boundaries are and what she feels comfortable about, right? And if we have people, not just women, but all people understanding the importance of open, honest communication about sex and sexuality. If you want to do something, if you don't want to do something, that you speak it, you say it, we will have a lot less of those uncomfortable situations, a lot less actual rapes that happen and actual sexual assaults that happen. And I want everybody to have that. And as well as it just straight up reduces unintended pregnancies a lot and sexually transmitted infections. Yes.
Okay, so what you're saying, I completely agree with. And I think in this current society, we have a lot of knowledge and a lot of media attention placed on consent. I mean, the whole, Hollywood rape scandal thing is like very well publicized, right? We teach women this in school, blah, blah. Now, the ideas that I presented in race and the preponderance of violence in the Black community, you hear almost none of that in mainstream media or in school, right? You've been.
You hear none of what?
None of a lot of the points that I've been making, right? Like I've shocked you, I'm sure, with a lot of the ideas.
No, when did you shock me? You have not. When did you shock me?
I definitely shocked you when I said the police procedures that resulted in Rodney King's beating were by the book.
Yeah, you shocked me that this country would allow 4 or 5 police officers to beat the shit out of a Black man.
I'm not getting argumentative. I'm just saying there needs to.
No, I know. I don't know what you're talking about. What stuff that you're
culture needs to have a lot more conversations like the one you and I are having. And I think we got consent pretty much in the bag, right? Like if you're not caught up on
no.
Well,
no, we don't.
It's a lot less necessary than the conversation we need to have on race. I'll put it that way.
It's a lot. No.
Yes.
Both are incorrect. No, I would not agree.
Well, okay.
We are just beginning.
Let's talk about the numbers of people each of those incidents hurt every year, right?
Each of what incidents?
I mean, consent, learning about consent, right? Like, who at this point doesn't know enough about that situation?
Okay, well,
being dumb. If you.
This is okay. Okay. I mean, there's so much I could get into with that, but that is for a separate debate. I mean, because that is
when I went to college, the first like introductory week, they were handing out rape whistles, right? Like, it's fairly common that
handing out rape whistles doesn't mean shit. It's an actual conversation with words.
And people get it wrong most of the time on the left when they're saying you have to have positive consent all the time. Fuck that. I'm sorry. That is not how human beings were like mating for millennia. Like this is it's such a dumb conversation. But anyway, we're talking about race. Like that.
It's not a dumb conversation.
It is a dumb conversation. The way they present it, it's a dumb.
It's a very important conversation. All I would say is I actually don't think that you and I disagree.
Yeah.
I think that we agree. I just think that it's the only small place that we disagree is that you think that everybody already understands all of this.
Yeah.
And as a sex educator who has these conversations with people on a regular basis, I can guarantee you, no, they do not. It is not. It's more nuanced and complicated than I think you understand when it comes to the details. But the only reason I even brought up consent and about that is it's just one of the many necessary things that needs to be discussed in sex education at every single school, beginning by 6th grade, middle school, before kids begin having sex, and so that kids understand how to access condoms and birth control of all forms, including emergency contraceptive, so that kids know how to speak up for them and talk to their parents about them, to talk to their partner, their sexual partner about them, and to use them correctly, because the accuracy rate, the effectiveness rate is way higher with condoms and birth control pills, every form of birth control, when you use it correctly. And kids don't know the details of these things, and they end up having sex, not using protection, and then they become the people that you want to shame. And so I simply say, instead of making this conversation about your personal idea of morality, because that's what it is. Because you said before,
I'm not making a moral argument. I'm making a pragmatic argument.
When you said to me, it is not okay to become a single parent.
No, I never said that. I just said it leads to deleterious.
You did say that.
No, I didn't.
You did say, okay, we can roll back the video later.
I said there's a correlation between all the worst things in society and single parent children.
Okay.
I'm not making a moral argument. I don't care.
Ken, I promise you said the words, because it registered in my mind when you said it.
That steel trap.
And it sounded, I'm just telling you, you said it. You
okay.
said
we can,
regarding, and
we can rewind this and rewatch it.
Well, and if you want to, right now you can take it back. If you don't stand by that, and it was and you misspoke, that's fine. Because
if I said immoral, take it back, but I didn't.
No, you didn't say the word immoral. What you said was, you said, and I quote, "It's not okay," and you were talking about being a single parent, becoming one with no other parent in the picture.
Let me revise my statement.
Do you stand by that?
No, let me revise my statement if I said that. It is adversely, it is not helping society to have more single children born in single parent households. It is setting that child up for the worst kinds of failures we can imagine and continuing the cycle of single parent mothers.
So do you so I want you to understand how that is perceived.
I don't care how
and so we're talking
through. There is data on this.
No. Hold on. I want you to I get it. There's data on it, okay? But we can choose which data we focus on and which data we ignore.
And
I'm seeing it
does not help.
A lot of
culture should talk about these things in order to get to the root of the problem. In your conversation with Cole, you had this whole debate about like, well, you should have compassion for someone if they have alcohol problems. And he was saying, no, you fucking tell them the truth. You don't see any benefit to just like laying someone out and bringing them to their lowest point, right? Like no one in your family is supposed to say, look, I love you, but I can't let you in my house anymore if you're going to act like this. Someone at some point has to treat people like adults.
Okay, but you're acting as though I said don't treat people as adults or something. I'm saying you do both simultaneously, where like I've never argued against personal responsibility.
You seem not happy with the tenor of my saying certain things that are objectively true, like that single motherhood leads to really bad outcomes. Like that's how I'm perceived, is what you said.
I want you to just understand that saying single motherhood leads to bad outcomes, saying that doesn't actually decrease single motherhood in any way, shape, or form.
We haven't tried it culturally, Sally.
Effective. What?
It's not been tried culturally. There haven't been a bunch of movies and TV shows.
Oh my God, it's like
really like. Well, what's that show on MTV they did about like the young girls who get pregnant out of wedlock, right? Like, really? That's your idea of like a negative consequence being shown for that? What about Knocked Up? What really, Friends, Ross and Rachel? Like, come on, give me a fucking break.
You sound like a right-wing Christian morality.
I'm not
fundamental
moral argument. I keep telling you this. I'm making a pragmatic argument about facts.
No, but it's okay. People's lives are not for you to judge and shame. If you want to,
when they start asking me to pay for them, it absolutely is. When the children grow up to start killing people, it absolutely is.
And since I am also against that, I look at what would actually lift people out of poverty, and it would be education. It is the great equalizer, and it would be access to basic resources such as healthcare, such as not only K through 12 quality education, meaning that there is not the inequality among schools that we have. And for somebody to deny that is really doing a disservice to people all across this country.
Well,
so what we
not,
have is,
I'm certainly not denying that plays a part. I'm just arguing that the main fact.
No, that is the part. Like that is all of it.
No.
So that is from the very start. If a child grows up and they've got a single mom, first of all, simply having a single mom encourages the chances that you're going to be a single mom.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that kid grows up and they only have one parent. Okay. And this crazy assumption that anybody wants to live in poverty, like as if they would prefer simply to get the money that they get from welfare, which is like nothing, especially when you have kids.
That's obviously a straw man. I'm not arguing people want to live in poverty. Come on.
It sounds like you are, though, Ken.
In
like,
what
it sounds like
cockamamie way do you think I'm saying that?
Because you're making it.
I'm arguing for people to have personal responsibility by not fucking bad people who are going to leave them and not using birth control and then not having abortions if that fails, right? Like I'm saying people should not make children when they're
right, which
or with other people, I should say, in long-term relationships.
Okay, so you sound like you're saying that women want that life.
No,
like that
they're not helping themselves by doing it, is my point.
Right. I agree. So let's back up a minute because we've already addressed. So let's back up a minute out of this. We've already addressed comprehensive sex education and how it has been shown to greatly decrease unintended pregnancies, right? So you agree with me on that? Are you with me that every public school should have from middle school? It's age appropriate even for them, but yes, okay, we agree.
Yeah.
So this needs to be a big, I feel like, I don't know why you're not talking about this more. So I feel like every single, if I could see every person like in this party boat group and every person who loves to talk about the problems with single mothers, if they could focus their efforts on getting quality, comprehensive sex education in every damn school in this country, what a powerful impact those people could make.
Sure.
So that's a social policy. So, okay, so there's that. Let's talk about also.
Sally, we're getting way off. Access. Let's try to bring it back.
No, it's not. This is on topic.
We've been talking
because if you want to talk about,
minutes. Come on, dude.
It makes no sense. Okay. Yeah. Right. Well, but I'm gonna say that to any person who brings up.
I get it. You're totally right.
You're judging, you're moralizing, and I would also say you should also be the biggest fighter for access to abortion. So
I am.
So there's comprehensive. Okay, that should be what you talk about instead. That is what I'm saying.
Sally, I've personally had physicals done at Planned Parenthood because I want to support them. Like I'm your guy.
Wonderful. I shake your hand. I'm glad you're a supporter of Planned Parenthood. And if there's anybody in this group that's not, I would like them to reflect on their inconsistencies and hypocrisy.
Let's move on from this.
But this comes down to policy and what the outcomes are going to be. So if you're going to sit here and talk about, because it hurts Black people the most when they don't have comprehensive sex education and access to all birth control. Like, they need to be able to access it easily. Like, there are those bullshit conscience clauses sometimes where a person working at a pharmacy can say no to emergency contraceptives. We should all be fighting that.
Well, Sally,
we should all promote more access to abortion. So all of those things. And by the way, can I just remind you for 1 second, whenever you do talk about single mothers, there's a good chunk of those who were raped. Okay.
Yeah.
So please don't forget about those women that they became pregnant because they were raped and it was traumatic experience. For whatever reason, they chose not to have an abortion. They probably have been taught that it's murder, which is bullshit, and that it's wrong, which is bullshit. But anyway, so that's the nation we live in. So you're going to, promote judgment and blaming and finger wagging and lecturing. And there's no reason to believe that that will accomplish anything except, again, I want you to talk to mental health professionals. I want you to ask them. I want you to look at the research regarding counseling, regarding psychology, and because you act as though you know that telling people their lifestyles are wrong and putting out that judgment.
Not wrong, just deleterious to your future happiness and your child.
It's going to be heard the same way, though.
Well, that's not my problem. I am responsible for the words that exit my mouth, not what someone interprets them as.
Okay. Hey, hold on. I'm getting a notification that Neil wants to join our video. I didn't even know that was possible. Is it possible to have another person?
But we're almost done. I just want to wrap this up. So,
okay.
People are going to be pissed if I let you off the hook with this, without saying this.
Let me. Okay.
The bell curve, the average difference in IQ between races. Do you think it's junk science, and can you explain why you think it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter.
Why?
I mean, why would it matter?
Well, I mean, there's a strong correlation between success in life and IQ.
And why would that matter?
Because, I mean, let's take, for instance, prisons, right? Across every racial variety in prison, you have a mean intelligence of prisoners, right? So if you have a population with more people of a lower intelligence, there are going to be more of them in prison.
So, okay. So I know that a lot of people on the other side of me like to try to point to successful Black individuals in America as evidence that racism is over and there are no problems, right? And so they will say, we've had a Black president. They will say, oh, well, look at Oprah Winfrey. They will point to specific people. I'm sorry.
I get.
Yes. Rapid. Okay. But so then why can't I do that to you when you try to push this incredibly harmful narrative that Black people are somehow born inferior and that's just how they are? How does that make sense? So then clearly there are ways, and I would present to you that you can look at numerous research studies that show that there are certain interventions at schools, at predominantly Black urban schools. There are many interventions that have greatly raised the test scores, the achievement
test scores are the same as IQ.
Well, the IQ. I mean, I don't know if they even they barely ever test anybody's IQ.
You can't mean
but there are interventions such as mentoring programs. There are all sorts of interventions, smaller class sizes, more dynamic teachers who have had certain types of training. There are all sorts of interventions that have been shown that those Black kids, even from urban poverty-stricken neighborhoods, that they grow up and they go to very nice acclaimed colleges, universities.
Affirmative action.
So I would ask, if their IQs are naturally so low,
yes,
and they're inferior, then why would those interventions make any difference?
Well, I mean, getting into a prestigious university as a Black person is easier because of affirmative action. That's one point. It is.
I'm talking to you about actual, entire schools of kids, and you're just giving me back racist propaganda.
That's not propaganda. That's a fact.
Yeah, it is.
No, so, and also,
You're
talking
saying
about test scores, not IQ. IQ is set. You're born with it. You're going to stay with it the rest of your life, and that is the determinant.
well, then who cares though? Who cares?
Because
If you're talking about IQ, which most people don't even get their IQ tested ever in their lives,
130.
who the fuck
Bitch.
cares?
Woo.
No, don't do that.
No, I am.
You're. Hold on a second. Let me just tell you something. You just brought up something incredibly inflammatory.
Yes.
And white supremacist. And I am not saying you are a white supremacist, but your talking points about IQ are.
Well, I mean,
so
Sally, facts
you don't get
racist.
to bring up that. What?
That facts cannot be racist.
So when I'm putting forth other facts,
if they disprove mine, then my statement wasn't a fact, was it?
What?
If your facts disprove my facts, then my facts weren't actually facts. I was incorrect.
No, but it's oh my goodness. You're not interested in solving any problems. All you're interested in doing is saying Black people are inferior.
No.
So please,
no. Again,
please listen
you're making
to
a moral argument about what I'm saying pragmatically. I'm
telling you what you're saying. I'm not making any moral argument.
You're saying
that's the whole point of what you just said.
I don't think they're less moral.
What?
I don't think they're less hardworking necessarily. I'm just saying that if you measure intelligence, it's across the board in your life, and it matters. It fucking matters. There are different outcomes.
How does it matter?
Again,
how does it matter?
Prisons generally have a bunch of really stupid people in them, and CEOs are generally not really dumb people.
No. Back up. So, how does that matter?
I'm just saying, the liberal case being made is that everyone is absolutely the same across the board, right?
No. You have yet to tell me.
And so, hold on. And so saying everyone is equal across the board, they're a tabula rasa at birth, and that culture shapes them the way they are. That is not the case, because if you have one group that's doing a lot more crime, like let's say, as an example, you can't just say that it's their culture or the culture surrounding their group that is causing that.
So then I guess the solution is like what Richard Spencer would want.
No, you just
let's have separate nations for Black people and white people.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No. It's the same argument.
If it's not what you're saying, then Ken.
No.
What is your purpose?
Sally, listen,
tell me your purpose. You have yet to tell me.
I'll tell you exactly why. We can be the better angels of our own nature, right? If I wanted to set up a society where heroin and crack and PCP were able to be smoked legally, I would have to do it like Amsterdam. I would have to set up certain parts of a city in order to let people do that safely. If I'm realistic about the limitations of a certain subgroup of my population, then I need to restructure society to help them in certain ways that actually work, not the ways that we've tried, because they clearly haven't worked.
We haven't tried my ways.
Yeah, but your ways are based on the old ways.
Actual progressive policies that actually give people. Here's the thing, okay? So you don't want to let me off the hook. So you have to talk about how Black people have low IQ scores. Well, I don't want to let you off the hook. I don't want to talk about this
at all. People are just going to be pissed if I don't.
No, it's fine. Look, and it's fine. And at the end of this conversation, you and I are fine. I mean, whatever. I'm not mad at you about any of it.
I wouldn't even bring this up because I could make the argument without it. I'm just telling you, people in this group want to hear your reaction to that. That's all.
Okay. And I've yet to hear, it doesn't actually affect anything. If you continuously tell Black people, like there have been studies that have been shown that because they hear this message, it affects the way they think about themselves. And you laugh at that because you're ingrained into white supremacy, not just you.
I'm ingrained into reality.
So you're in white supremacy. It is your reality.
No.
And I am as well. And Black people are as well. That is the culture in which we live. We are conditioned to view us as the norm and the default and as smarter and more reliable and more trustworthy. And what I was about to say before is that there have been studies that have shown that that when Black people are taking achievement tests, Black students, that their scores are lower when after they check, if they have to check the box about their race.
Okay, Sally, I'm gonna get
fucked up, right? But when they take those exact same tests and they don't have to think about that I'm a Black person and they're just a person, they do better. Stop forcing this on them. Yes.
Explain the fact that Jews and East Asians have higher IQs than white people. If we live in a white supremacist society, that statement makes no sense.
I've already explained this 5 million times. And look, you can all see me. Whitey ass white person right here. Incredibly white. I walk out the door. I'm a white person. Okay? So understand that every single day we are perpetuating sorry, my phone just had a little, I need to plug in this charger before it dies. Every single day we are perpetuating white supremacy and racism, whether we want to or not.
Well, okay.
Understand that.
You need to give me some. Because that's
okay,
just.
I would love to. So listen, it's racism is not only it's not only an act. Like, it's not just doing a racist thing.
Yes, it is. Actions are the only
it's not
all.
Okay, understand. It is doing.
You're going to get into implicit.
It's an idea.
That's ridiculous.
Ken,
go ahead.
I would love to explain this to you. Thank you. So, racism, kind of like capitalism or materialism or consumerism, is an ideology, but it's also a system. And so it's kind of like with consumerism or materialism. You don't wake up in the morning saying, oh, gee, I want to go buy some useless stuff today that I don't really need. But you end up doing that a lot of the time anyway, because, you know, like, they put stuff up there for you to buy, you have advertisements, and you are every day perpetuating that system, capitalism, materialism, consumerism, whether you choose to or not. You might not even want to. But so it's the same idea with racism. Understand, and white supremacy. Understand that.
Or Islamism.
What?
Or Islamism. Go ahead.
Anyway, understand that every day in this country, like, you have to understand how it started. You've got all white people in positions of power. You go back in time, okay? Little by little, Black people fought for their rights. Like, it was legal to not allow them to be hired in any position, in any job, to straight up discriminate against them. Mm-hmm. And again, the housing discrimination, where, you know, like, it was legal intentionally. They intentionally, if you look up redlining,
no,
you need to learn about redlining.
So can we get into that for a second? And then we can wrap this up, because we're going way over.
Okay, because I was going to say all of that stuff, I was just going to connect it to Jews benefit from all of it, because we're white people every day. We are not denied shit that Black people are denied. We are not treated the way that Black people are treated.
But then what's
and
the
that is reality.
And regular, like, Protestant or Catholic Caucasians.
What's the difference?
Yeah, I mean, why do you guys succeed so much?
There isn't one. There's no difference.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's clearly a difference in Nobel Prize winnings and median income and crime.
Who gives a shit?
That is what society gives a shit about, Sally.
They need to stop. Yeah, they need to stop doing that.
Okay, let's go into the housing. They need to stop. Because I actually did watch that video, and I have some points to make, okay? So the Fair Housing Initiative program was in 1986. It resulted in over 1,000 housing discrimination lawsuits between 1990 and 2001, and $155 million in financial recovery. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act was in place in 1974. Now, historically, right, when you have oppressed people, like, let me just back up on race for a second and just say, there's a lot of white people that were not considered white in America. Irish, Italian, Jews, Polish, you know, Catholics, right? So in the 1906 earthquake and fire in San Francisco, you had Little Italy decimated in that city, right? And the only group that would give any money to help people rebuild these Italian immigrants was the Bank of Italy. And they did, right? You can make your own bank if no one's giving you loans in the rest of your society. Asians did it, Jews did it in America. Every group has done it except for Black people, right? And Bank of America, or Bank of Italy, then became the Bank of America, which is the third largest bank in the country and the ninth largest bank in the world, based solely on the success of the program of loaning money to people in your own community.
Are you trying to tell me that it's just not our problem?
No, I'm saying there's a
those
successful way
people
to get credit for a house if you want it.
So please understand the history. Mm-hmm. Please understand the shit that Black people went through in this country that was never made right, that they never got reparations for. And
Kelly,
they definitely Jews got a lot of reparations from Germany. A lot. They got a lot. Yes?
Okay.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say American Jews. I don't know the history on that.
Okay, well, I do know the history on that. Jews in post-World War II Germany got a lot of money.
But American Jews?
As reparations. Yes, they did. They got reparations from the government, okay? So
Sally, to answer the reparations charge you've levied, we fought the most costly in terms of lives war America has ever fought to free Black people. We have had welfare for the past 40 years. We've had affirmative action, which is a right that other people do not have in society. Frankly, the amount of slave owners in the antebellum South was incredibly small.
Okay.
Wasn't that much money made.
Okay. I am not gonna, because our time is limited, I'm not going to waste my time, no offense. Listening to this, I've heard it 5 million times, and it is ignoring the problem.
Why have a debate when we came here to have a debate? But okay.
No. We can have a debate. You're bringing up something that's a whole other thing where you're trying to get into details of.
Sally, American Blacks are the richest Blacks on average of any African group in the world.
Okay.
That's true.
Are we talking about the United States, or are we not talking about the United States? Are we talking about being a country that has less crime, right? We want that. We've talked about that.
Less race.
That has more better educated people who can compete in the world,
yep.
Right? That has healthier people with a longer lifespan. Are we talking about that? That has fewer sexually transmitted infections.
Yep.
That has fewer unintended pregnancies. What I want you to do is focus on these things. Like, you and I want the same things, but all you keep wanting to do is moralize.
No,
and
you're
chastise.
I'm not.
You chastise.
No.
You lecture. You blame. You shame.
I'm having
you
a
wag
debate
the
with
finger.
You. I have to.
And you're a white guy. No. Hang on a second. Because if you, I feel the Black perspective and the Black experience in these groups is only valued and listened to when it's saying the exact same thing as you guys, which is the white supremacist view. So there's a very small minority of Black people who they want to be approved. They want to get their approval and validation from white folks. So they've learned how to play the game, and they've learned what to say, and that's fine. That's them.
Right.
That's their choice.
That is the most
but understand that if you
thing I've ever heard. That's nuts, dude.
No. There's a reason why that's a very small minority of Black people who want policies that cause harm to Black people and that don't solve the problem.
The whole point of our debate is to get you to admit, or at least put the thing in your mind, that maybe I'm not a racist. Maybe people making these arguments actually think these policies will help Black people because that's what we want to do, because that's what we're telling you. Like, Like the fact that you think we all have these nefarious motives, when I have said nothing that's not true, provable, whatever. I've said one thing about changing culture, and that's, I mean, I can back that up with data, but it's not like an objective fact. Like, but Jesus Christ, like, really? You're going to impugn the motives and like say that we're moralizing all this and like basically call these black conservatives Uncle Toms? Like, that's disgusting, man. I'm sorry.
Okay,
you are in the wrong.
Back up. Did I call them Uncle Tom?
No, but you are.
Say that.
Look up the definition of Uncle Toms, and you basically impugn them that way. They want to impress white people.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Come on.
No, you come on. Don't put words in my mouth, okay? So the problem with this conversation all the time is that every time I talk about the actual concrete things that we as a society need to do, that's what I'm talking about, right? Like I've said it. I've said we want X to happen. Let's do this social policy. I talked about sex education. I talked about public education, right? I talked about healthcare, right? I'm talking about access to very basic resources that are, these things are the equalizers of society. These things are what lift people out of poverty. And that's just what I'm talking about. And then you say that I am somehow judging you. Now, when I say, hold on just 1 second. When I say something is a white supremacist talking point, that is not the same thing as me saying you are a white supremacist. I don't think anybody in this group belongs to a white supremacist organization. They could, and I hope they don't, but I don't think so. I definitely don't think you do.
We certainly made the case that the things we say are likely to lead to violent outcomes for Black people.
Yes, that's okay, because that's really true. I'm sorry that you don't like that.
No,
that doesn't mean that I don't think their intention, but understand though, Ken. What?
How is anything we say in this group transmitted outside of the group exactly? Make that case.
Transmitted outside. Oh, well, I mean, it's not like no, but I'm talking about those things that you're saying when you say those things in general in the world.
Kelly,
like, no, technically, officially, no. Like, Kelly, anything in this group is not going outside the group. I'm not putting it outside of the group.
Kelly,
yes.
There are facts that everyone knows, right? If you ask a person if you ask a person what color a stop sign is, they'll say red, right? That's a fact. Now, I don't care if that person's a racist who says it. Like, that person could really be a proponent of lynching Black people as having an ethno-state. It doesn't make the fact any less true when he says it. So when I talk about these things and I bring up the data and then you write us off as having white supremacist talking points, that's not helpful. Do you not get that?
Okay, fair enough. Because you don't understand what I mean when I say something is a white supremacist talking point, this is helpful for me to change my messaging. So I hear you loud and clear. I will stop saying it.
Okay.
Okay?
That's a win.
I still believe that it is a white supremacist talking point, but from here on out, I won't say that because it is interpreted in a way other than what I intend it to be interpreted as, right? So,
well, it doesn't matter if it's a white supremacist talking point. It's true. That's the point I'm making.
Gotcha. Okay. So even if something was invented by people who wanted to keep Blacks as slaves and lynch them and kill them, even if those people invented a talking point in order to keep Black people below them, you're totally cool with that talking point.
Yes.
It doesn't.
I'm not arguing for phrenology. I'm arguing for IQ data, which is the most reliably produced social data we can ever come up with.
How do we know? Do we know that?
Yes.
That it is?
Yes.
I mean, who are they testing?
I mean, populations of large enough size that you can be sure that it's accurate. But I mean, I'm not going to tell you about IQ science. Look it up now.
No, but okay, I will. The majority of people don't even ever get their IQ tested in their life.
Yeah, the majority of people do a lot of things. They test large enough populations that you can make inferences.
Okay, So, okay, that's fine. Because you're going off of this assumption that data is strong.
It
so
is as
I'm going
strong
to
as any data ever collected. I'll put it that way.
Okay. But I still stand by what I
should
said
say,
that.
as strong as any data collected on a social thing involving human beings.
Okay. So here's the ultimate bottom line. You live in a society with all races of people, yes? I'm asking you.
I'm sorry.
Do you?
I live in a society.
I mean, it's obviously a question I know the answer to. Do you live in a society with all races of people?
Yes.
Obviously, yes.
Not Eskimos.
Do you interact with all races of people on pretty much a daily basis?
Yes.
Yeah, right. You go to even if you like at work, you go to the store, you go everywhere. You're surrounded by all races of people, whether you like it or not. And I'm not implying you don't like it, but that is the case. Okay. So, no, I'm really not implying that you.
No,
I don't think you have any problem with that whatsoever. But I am just getting down to the heart of the matter, okay? Because that's all that matters is. So we live together. You live among Black people, Latino people, Muslim people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So at the end of the day, you want those people to be as educated as possible, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. You want those people
I want them to be as successful and happy as possible.
Exactly, right? And you want them to be as less likely to commit crimes as possible, right?
Yes.
The least likely to commit crime. Okay. All of those things. I mean, duh, of course we do, right? Do you think that putting this idea out there to your fellow citizens that some of them are inferior is helpful?
Well, I mean,
or harmful?
Do we try to hide the fact that certain people are born blind or ugly or short? They are just systematic by nature, right?
No, we don't.
Yeah, no, we don't.
Okay.
So why would we do it with this? I understand the racist history makes it a little touchy subject, but it's still a fact.
Even if we ignore the racist history, which we never really should.
No, I agree.
But for the sake of this argument, even if we did, you're walking through your life in your head thinking that you're better and smarter, and when you see a Black person, you're thinking in your head that person is stupider than you.
No. And here's the thing about IQ, and you should know this because this will help you. And so the variance between groups is less than the variance within groups. So I have no way of assuming that just because a person is
okay, thank you.
Yes, but as an aggregate, you can make inferences about crime.
Okay, but
large-scale success,
right?
Definitely can.
But why should you? So you just admitted to me right here and now.
Because liberals make the case that if you have more Black people in prison than white people, the system is racist. No, it is not.
The case is way more than that.
Well, I mean, that's one piece of data.
One sliver of the case. I mean, the evidence is already in that when tried and convicted for the exact same crime, Black people get longer, harsher sentences.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm with you.
So these are facts.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a fact.
No, okay, good. So that would be a systemic problem, systemic racism right there. Sure. Okay. And that also could lead to part of the reason more Black people are in jail.
Well, no. A reduced sentence does not mean you didn't go to prison at all.
Well, it does. If you have other people getting out of jail sooner,
yeah,
and we're harsher when it comes to, and there's targeting, there's profile. I mean, you don't remember that right here? I live right by Ferguson, Missouri, and there was a whole report that was done on the Ferguson Police Department.
In specific instances, you can find that, but overall, I did look this up.
All across the country, Ken.
Hold on. I did look this up. In 2016, you had the percentage of Black people pulled over in traffic violations was 13%. Now they're 12.4% of the population. So driving while Black is disproved by that figure.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
That driving while Black, as in you're going to get pulled over more if you're Black than if you're white, is not accurate. And I'll show you that it is absolutely not the case.
Tell me how you know that again. I'm sorry.
Because if you look at the percentage of people pulled over, and that is 49% of the interactions people have with cops, right? 13% of the people pulled over in a given year are Black. The population of Black people in this country is 12.4%. So it is barely above what you would expect of the population sampled totally fairly.
Gotcha. Okay. I'll have to look at
I'll send it to you.
Your data, because I don't know that I'm willing to be charitable enough to just assume that the data is true and right.
I give you props for even acknowledging the data on the actual overall crime numbers. I figured you were going to fight me on that, so kudos.
Well, I should look that up as well.
Well, so look up the Department of Justice and FBI statistics on relative.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it still doesn't matter, because you and I agree we want to reduce it, and so
the way I would reduce it is reducing the unwed mother population. You say for education, and if we try your way, which we are going to do, and it doesn't work, I'm going to come back in years and say, Sally, you were wrong. Way to go.
What wrong about what? I'm sorry.
If we try your way and it doesn't give us the benefit that we want, then I'm going to come back in years later and say, Sally, probably should listen to me, because I doubt we're going to try my way as a society.
Right. And it wouldn't be an overnight thing. You would do education, and it's a little, then you raise people who have hope and don't feel hopeless. They've got quality education. They have a smaller student to teacher ratio.
Yeah, I'm on board with all that. I really am, truly.
But so wonderful. That takes money, though. That takes funding. But yeah, there's a real difference here between the schools in Black communities versus the schools in white communities. Yeah. And again, when you look at redlining, which everybody needs to research, redlining, it wasn't that long ago. You know, Black people were not only banks denying them loans to move into the nicer neighborhoods, but realtors would not sell.
The history argument, and we've since legislated to make all that illegal, though, and that was 30 years ago, at least.
You don't think? Okay, but 30 years ago. Just got a phone call. I had to.
Oh yeah. All right, well, let's wrap this up. I think we had a pretty
30 years. Okay, 30 years ago is nothing. Understand that it's like if you have a race and you've got one person who is above the start line, you know, you're starting ahead.
Yeah.
And so and the white people who had the advantage, the privilege, if you will, of not being discriminated against and getting the loans and buying these houses, and then over time the house value in these nice neighborhoods goes up, and the businesses come in, they sell these houses, they make money. The Black people are in these, you know, bad neighborhoods, and they're crammed into these neighborhoods, and they're not making any of that money.
Take the point that at any point they could corral money and set up their own organization to give out credit and loans.
How are they corralling money?
You can't. I mean, the Italians did it, like in the example I gave of San Francisco. Asians do it and make banks all the time and credit organizations.
But if you're specifically, okay, first of all,
that's how capitalism works, Sally. If somebody's not serving a percentage of the population based on something stupid like race, then somebody else can just start a business and then get all that business. And like the Italians did, that's now the third largest bank in America because they service the minority population.
I mean, good for them.
I'm just saying
That's
there's options that are not being explored here, if that's actually a problem.
Where would they get that?
Corralling money, having investors that care about the issue. From the
needing enough money for Black people. It's a red herring. It's not even
people loan money ever.
Because what you're doing is you're letting our government and our country off the hook. See, that's the opposite of patriotism.
No, Sally.
You see,
at a certain point, we just
because I care about people in my country.
At a certain point,
that's what patriotism is.
Sally, I got to say one more thing,
ahead.
and then I'll let you respond. Then we got to cut it off. But
okay.
Frankly, at a certain point in history, you have to cut it off and say, look, we have to just stop living as if everything is still the fucking Mississippi burning freedom riders. Okay, like we've given people decades, generations. Like exactly when does this end in your mind? Like when we have total parity on all of these different social metrics we could be measuring? Like really?
When does what end? Ken, look at Europe, look at Canada, look at all of these nations that give healthcare to all their citizens and that give quality pre-K through 12 and universities. There are many nations that do this. They do it for ongoing. It's not, they don't cut off. And they're doing much better than us because they actually are patriotic. They actually provide for their own citizens, and they understand that education makes for better members of society, and that we all are better to one another. We treat one another better. We have less crime and less violence when you have certain social policies, and we have less unintended pregnancies and diseases, etc., and less poverty and homelessness. Or how about giving a shit about homelessness and not having, because that raises the crime rate when you have people out there on the streets. In St. Louis, where I live, just not too long ago, there have been this season 2 homeless African-American people who died while out in the freezing cold, and there's no shelter, there's nowhere for them to go. But there have been many progressive societies that get it, that you have to actually give a shit about human beings. See, in this nation, we're hypocrites because we claim to be pro-life, but we don't value life. I'm just saying, like, this is why I'm so upset about this, because we specifically in the U.S., we talk a good game. We say that we're so wonderful. We say we're number one. In what? In incarcerating our own people? Oh, yeah, we're number one. I mean, we're not number one at all. We suck. Like, what are we number one in? We need to reflect and actually give a shit. And so what I'm saying is that I have evidence on my side about the policies that actually end poverty and that actually give people access to opportunities to get out of poverty and to be more successful in their lives and to be able to change classes from poverty to middle class to upper class. You're not giving any way to do that. All you're doing is saying, basically, Black people are stupid and inferior. You didn't say those words, but that's essentially what you're saying. You're saying Black people are stupid and inferior. You're saying they did this to themselves. These single mothers, I'm going to go ahead and blame women who, do you understand what women, especially Black women in poverty, have gone through? Do you realize how high rape and incest and physical abuse is? I mean, Ken, do you? Have you researched that?
Yeah.
Those numbers, Well, I mean,
Well,
I'm not
look,
trying to
I
be
don't want to
sick.
keep going, so we just got to cut this off. So
That's fine. We can cut it off there. Can I just say though, just, this will be my closing statement. Okay. I promise. I'll wrap it up. As somebody who has done counseling with many kids who have been through the absolute worst of the worst that you could ever imagine, the most horrible abuse and crimes and poverty and just the worst, I have seen firsthand kids make changes. When you do emphasize personal responsibility and what they need to do, and you help them by mentoring them and offering them guidance and information, access to resources. Like, they don't know these things a lot of the time. You have to explain it to them, and you have to guide them and help them. And you're offering them the empathy, you're offering the compassion, you're listening and hearing and believing their experiences and their stories. And but it's that coupled with the access to opportunities and the access to programs and to resources. And that is when changes happen. It's not just going to happen by you telling people to change or telling them that they made a bad choice and judging them. That's my